Late that night, King Connachar sent a warrior, Gelban Grednach, to the inn where Nish and Deirdre stayed. "Tell me," said the king, "whether Deirdre has kept her beauty. This I must know quickly." Grednach hurried to the inn. Out of breath, he looked in through a slat in the window. So great was Deirdre's beauty that he gasped and gave himself away. Nish looked towards Grednach and seized some dice from a table and hurled them at the window. One struck Grednach in the eye and blinded him. He howled and ran back to the king, who was pacing in his chamber. When Grednach entered, blood streamed from his face. "You have seen her?" asked the king. "I have, and while I was looking, Nish took my eye out." He cringed at the pain. "How does she appear?" demanded the king. "I say the truth. Although my eye has been blinded, were it not for your urgent request, it was my one desire to remain there and gaze upon her for all my days." Connachar flew into a rage and immediately gathered 100 brave men in his great hall. "Go down to the inn at once, kill the strangers and bring Deirdre back to me alive, or you shall all die." The warriors prepared for battle. Unknown to the king, Lavarcham had been hidden in the crowd and ran ahead to warn Nish. "I will put an end to this," said Nish when he heard the news. The brothers prepared for battle in haste. Fully armed, they went forth upon the great plain towards a distant copse and hid themselves in the shadowy tanglewood. During the millennia that men have lived in the world with other men, they have battled one another. But on this night, there were none so disadvantaged as the sons of Ushnich. But it is also true that there were none with such noble hearts. Indeed, by measurement of spirit, each brother was the equivalent of 20 warriors. In a rush, the king's warriors appeared at the edge of the plain, and the young heroes went straight into the fray. Their swords shone in the gloom with a gleam of chill flame, so deadly were their betrayed hearts. It was impossible to tell among the clashing swords who challenged whom, and blood soaked the grass until it was a slippery pool. When the fighting had ended, the brothers had laid down the entire 100. Connachar came to the edge of the plain and cried out with wrath, but the sons of Ushnich and Deirdre were travelling across the great plain in the darkness towards the shore, towards Alba, towards home. The king ordered Cathbad the Druid to his side and spoke in forced calmness. "Stop them, or I shall see that you are banished forever." Silently Cathbad went to work. He raised a forest on the plain with dense undergrowth, but the brothers went through it as easily as though it were air. Then the druid turned the plain into a freezing sea. The brothers stripped their shirts from their backs. Deirdre climbed upon Nish's shoulders, and they swam against the howling current. Their speed did not slow, and the brothers travelled as swiftly as if they had fled on foot. Seeing this, the king frowned, and the druid feared for his life. He raised his arms, and the sea turned to stone. Rocks as sharp as swords seared upwards and ground together with a great noise, chewing like the monstrous teeth of an enormous granite creature. The brothers ran upon the stones, but slipped and fell many times. Finally Alan, the youngest, cried out in pain, and Nish took him upon his right shoulder, but he soon died. Nish did not let him go, but continued to carry him. He looked around for Arden, but saw in his misery that Arden had also died, and the will to live was torn from him. Wounded and heartbroken, not even the love of Deirdre could sustain Nish, and he slipped between two stones. Lying within the gnashing rocks, he was overcome, and he died without a word. At this instant, the plain returned to grass. "They are gone," said Cathbad. "The sons of Ushnich are dead. They shall trouble you no more." He slipped back into the night.